now at this time. In precision farming, we're really starting to dial in what those conditions that we're monitoring are. And so barn tools, we monitor a lot of environmental conditions specifically within inside these facilities. We'll look at ensuring the power's on, what temperature the conditions are, humidity, water consumption. Partnered with MTech, we'll also be providing feed bin sensors, insight into bird scales, bird weights, all of that kind of stuff in the future as well too.
Welcome everyone, this is MTech's Accelerate. My name is Nikolai Shitikhin and I have Jim Johnston with me. And also today we have guests, it's Matthew and Greg. Welcome guys.
Hey Nick.
Thanks Nick. Hey Jim, how are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing good, doing good.
So Nick, I'm really excited to introduce a couple of these guests here today because I think we get some good time talking about some really interesting technology in the poultry industry over the next 20 minutes or so. So can I introduce really Greg Burrows? Greg's the Director of Sales and Marketing with Barn Tools LLC. And also today we've got Matthew Hicks. Matthew is the Precision Farming Manager with MTech Systems. So we're really looking forward to having a good chat about tech and all things IoT.
Cool. All right. So yeah, it's great to have you guys because today we're going to discuss precision farming. And we discussed this topic several times already in our previous episode or touched it. But today we're going to have you as experts on this. So, and as we know, precision farming doesn't have a distinct definition. It always depends on who we talk with. So I'd like to start with a question to Matthew. Matthew, what do you think, in your words, what is precision farming?
So for me, that's the marriage between the hardware and software that we're going to use to collect that farm data for the improvement of the supply chain management. So in the past, these farms have been a black box that now we can unlock with this IoT technology.
All right.
Really good, man. Really good. And look, this seems to be a kind of trend. I mean, it seems to be evolving. It's rapidly moving. I mean, if you look at the press and media coverage, there's a lot of discussion around that subject, precision farming and IoT and data. So why do you think, or what's the trend? Is it companies deciding they want to upgrade old technology? Is it becoming more competitively priced? I mean, why is this happening a lot more?
A little bit of both. So IoT is used in a lot of other industries, but with agriculture, it's a little bit different. So agriculture is very price competitive, and within the last several years, IoT technology has really gotten down to a price point that has a good return. Because in agriculture, most customers are looking at roughly 1.5 years of payback time. That gives a good enough to where, hey, this is good technology, but it's also going to provide value for us. And then I think also now that more universities are doing research and putting out those numbers and seeing value on those production numbers, people are understanding the true value of those numbers. And then they're looking at, okay, what do my numbers say? Can I get that data? And then how do I improve my supply chain with those numbers?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the last thing is because at the end of the day, for more visibility, that's going to equal a higher chance of making the proper changes at the proper time.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like this ROI and visibility component because if, like you said, in other industries, it might be different. And also if you want to have a smart home, you're not expecting like a really good payback out of it. It's just kind of fancy right now. But in the poultry industry, yes, you need to get this ROI. If you implement something, you need to get the payback for it. And I really like that. So, and I guess my next question is also kind of related to that. Greg, you're working directly with the companies, providing them IoT solutions and sensoring solutions. And based on your experience, how do you see those solutions help your customers? Do you have any examples?
Sure. It's kind of like you guys just mentioned. These technologies are more affordable, more readily available now than they've ever been. As they make their way into agriculture, these agriculture buildings, facilities, even row crop farms now, they're similar to these commercial buildings, or even Nick, like you mentioned, homes where people just aren't there 24 hours a day, right? In an ideal world, this is exactly what's happening, but we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a real world, and people can't be there all the time. And so the greatest benefit, I believe, that these sensors are able to provide not just the farmers themselves, but also the people working in these production companies are real-time visibility into their farm, even when they're not there, to let them know exactly what's going on, essentially at all times around the clock, or at least to have a snapshot whenever they do come back and look at these sensors again of what's been going on since the last time that someone was actually there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a massive help, isn't it, when you're trying to manage livestock, to have that visibility 24/7. It really helps. But tell me, precision farming, there's a lot of discussion about it, as we've said already. It takes quite a lot of data. But what data are we actually talking about being able to monitor? What types of data are we looking at?
Indeed. And I think that that's where we're starting to get really honed in as well. Data has obviously been a buzzword across a lot of major industries for, depending on the industry, a decade to several decades now at this time. In precision farming, we're really starting to dial in what those conditions that we're monitoring are. And so Barn Tools, we monitor a lot of environmental conditions specifically within inside these facilities. We'll look at ensuring the power's on, what temperature the conditions are, humidity, water consumption. Partnered with MTech, we'll also be providing feed bin sensors, insight into bird scales, bird weights, all of that kind of stuff in the future as well too.
All right, awesome. And Greg, you mentioned Barn Tools is one solution that captures all kinds of information, but there are also possible other ways and other pieces of information that can be gathered inside the chicken houses. Matthew, maybe you can open up a little bit on what other solutions there are to capture all this information and ensure precision farming.
Sure, of course. So at the end of the day, we want the data. That's the gold mine. But we have to find a way to collect that data. So currently we look at kind of three different options. The number one option is environmental controller. Pretty much every poultry farm has one of those, and they have the capability of collecting data because the environmental temperature, the humidity, the water, that's normally already going into the environmental controller. So that's an easy option to be able to send that data to MTech for further analysis. Then we have two other options, a wired solution and then a wireless solution. So with our wired solution, that's going to offer a higher accuracy, but it is going to be a little bit more costly on the installation and the product overall. But some companies, if they're really focused in on accuracy, they're going to go for that wired solution. For the wireless solution, that is for customers that want something to install on their own. They want an option that is cheaper, and they want something that is just very easy to access. And I think those are three options that are going to take us forward with this data collection. So we can have customers the ability to choose one of those three options, but at the end of the day, we're still collecting the data.
Yeah, and Matthew, these three options, they all connect through into MTech's Sonar platform, yeah. And one of the cool things about that, I think, is in Sonar we retain all the information for all the cycles. So you can go back, if you're on the system for 3, 4, 5 years, you can look at any individual cycle or flock of birds in detail, and that's a massive advantage in terms of learning and education. If you're looking at how do we do this time last year, what could we do better, and tweaking the system. But so the other thing is, obviously we're connected to the hardware and these three different options that you mentioned, Matthew. But Greg, I mean, What's the kind of, we've got different levels, I guess. We've got a base level. You started to mention previous in some of these sensors. Could you just remind us a little bit about that kind of base level sensoring, and then maybe a little bit about what additional sensors can be added?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of where we're at with it currently. We know that there's, feed, air, and water, right? Those are the most important things for animal agriculture. And so since the Barn Talk platform is intended to be an alarm at its core, that's where the value is delivered to the grower. We start with those three basic things plus power, right? That obviously ensures the air as well. So we have power, we have temperature, we have water. We've got a feed bin sensor, coming. And in addition to that, the humidity sensor. So we're trying to basically ensure that the most basic fundamentals of life are at the ideal condition inside these facilities. And we consider that our baseline level. We often have an image of Maslow's hierarchy that we refer to. If you go back to your high school psychology days, where you take care of the basic needs first before you can start to do some of the higher level things like empathy and emotion and love, all of those. And so we think of feed, air, and water as kind of basic connectivity at the site, then bringing on reliable alarms from there. And once you have reliable alarms, that's when you can really start to do stuff with the data, right? You can collect the data. Then with the help of sonar, you can send that into one single platform, one single source of truth that you can then look at everything else through. And from there, we can bring in other things kind of as they are deemed important by the farmer or by the integrator to be monitored, to be looked at. Hey, I want to make sure my generator's on. I want to see how long the lights were running. I want to see what the ammonia levels are inside the building. Other things like that are obviously important, but take a little bit lower priority based on preference of the integrator and the grower.
Yeah, that's cool. That's already quite a lot of sensors, and technology is all about future, what we gonna get tomorrow. Because today, all right, we ensuring what we can, but it's always what we get tomorrow. And even like 5 years ago, maybe not every chicken farmer could imagine, oh, we can have a wireless sensors that would be sending data through the cloud, and I can have an app that would show me all of my alarms and levels of feed and everything. And now we're talking about what's in the future, what we'll have in the barn in the 5 and 10 years. Will we have cameras everywhere? Will we have noise and empathy sensors? Or what do you guys think is coming, and what should we hope for, as you know most of the insights from the industry?
So from my point of view, it's a matter of how precise we want to be. I mean, right now we're getting to that realm of collecting data, and it's just the basic KPIs. In the future, we're looking at, okay, what do we want to start looking at next? People are starting to look at noise and starting to detect, oh, well, do those birds have a disease right now? So that is going to help increase that animal welfare that's on the farm. They're looking at gait scores, so how the birds are walking, to see if there is something wrong with the litter, with the footpad dermatitis. For as far as with cameras and three-dimensional options, it's looking at, okay, can we use a camera to predict the weight of that bird instead of using bird scales? There's also increasing from load cells, different options, LiDAR, in some way the possibilities are endless when you start looking at technology. But then comes the next aspect of affordability and also usability for the field. I think in the future of precision farming, we're going to start looking at, okay, how can we push environmental control settings to then run the farms automatically? That's the perfect ideal world coming from a ventilation standpoint. But we have to work through stages to get to there. So I think the future is all about precision. and we just have to figure out how precise we want to be.
Yeah, I think you hit that spot on, Matthew. I think that from our standpoint, we really boil it down to, like I mentioned earlier, connectivity, right? Traditionally, so many of these sites are in rural areas, and connectivity has been a major problem, right? Data's siloed in there, and it's not as much a problem as can we collect the data, right? Of course, this has been done in other industries for a while now. There's ways to collect this data, but as Matthew mentioned, the usability of it, the practicality of it in this particular setting, is where I think that the most exciting things are going to happen in the future. Yes, there's so many cool companies out there working on different technologies that are able to be done. A way you can weigh animals, a way that you can detect anything you can imagine, right? But I think the key is finding a way to use it, finding a way to have that single pane of glass like MTech can do, that a producer can look at the data that's relevant when it's relevant, right? And not just be over inundated with all of this data coming your way that you don't know how to use, you don't know what it's good for, you don't know how it can help your business. These are things that are being done now with the right sensors at the right time, and then with the right connectivity foundation, being able to get it out of the farm and into somewhere where you can aggregate all this data, you can run the analytics on it to know where to improve. And I think that's what's exciting me most is of the direction of where precision farming is going, is the way that this data can be used to not only benefit the animals, but benefit the entire ecosystem, the supply chain, and then the quality that we're getting to the end user, right, the consumer, and how that's going to help the consumer in the long run to have more affordable, more nutrient rich protein that they can then use to be a healthier person, a healthier society, all of that.
Yeah, hey, and thanks, Greg and Matthew. I mean, that's really interesting. We've got some good stuff there. We've not been talking about it long, and it's a big subject, and might be something we want to come back to in a future podcast. But thanks, Greg and Matthew, for your time and explaining. I think we've run through some really nice stuff on precision farming. I love the visibility it gives you as a farmer, as an integrator, if you've got a number of farms to manage. But the visibility is great that we can get through IoT and now the latest kind of software solutions. Really nice to talk about there is a payback. It's not just spending money on hardware and some software. You actually is real payback to the farmer from using this stuff and leveraging the technology. So that was really nice to hear. And yeah, I guess 24-hour monitoring 7 days a week, really important in making that visible so that the farmer or the grower can really leverage that data to improve the health and the welfare of his livestock and ultimately the efficiency of how he grows these birds and their performance, their costs of production, and ultimately into sustainability. It's really, the future looks really exciting using this technology. And I suppose we need to bring a lot of people with us. We're all excited because we work and we live and breathe it every day, the technology, the hardware, and the software. We need to obviously get the farmers and the growers on board. And I know they're climbing in, and I know you guys are very busy now, Matthew and Greg, in terms of that whole IoT subject with not just integrators out there, but also with individual growers. So it's really exciting to be able to offer the industry these products. So I look forward to catching up with you guys in the future, in the week ahead, and we'll perhaps look, Nick, at another podcast to get into it a little bit deeper down the wire.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm really excited about all this technology, and now we have all the tech components, like hardware components, to gather all this information. Now we're building all this big data set that will help us, what Matthew mentioned, to do more prescriptive. And I'm pretty sure that will bring a huge benefit to the farmers that constantly needs help. Yeah, so it's been great talking to you guys. Like Jim said, we're happy to invite you for more episodes where we'll discuss all of those topics in greater detail. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Nick.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And for not missing new episodes, please follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And see you in the next episode.
See you, Nick.
Cheers.